Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is so both endearing and also frustrating for me as somebody who launched their book in 2025 called Unicorn Team. And it's debunking the myths around how bestseller lists really work and why most authors make big mistakes when they think about wanting their book to be a bestseller. Now, the first thing I want you to know is you should totally want your book to be a bestseller. Because what's the point of writing a book if the book can't inspire and enrich and educate people, right? And so the relationship between like writing a book and writing a bestseller is the first thing to think about. I want you in your mind to say, of course I want to write a bestseller because I want this book to be in other people's hands. A lot of authors just think of hitting the bestseller list as what I call like an ego feather in their cap or something they feel a lot of pressure to do. And instead of that, I'd like you to reframe it as, of course I want to write a bestseller because I want this book to help more people. So that's the first thing you need to know before I even tell you the mechanics behind how bestseller lists really work. Because then when I tell you how they really work, then you'll understand why you should work even harder to have a bestseller. Okay? Now, I also want to say this. If for some reason your book doesn't hit a bestseller list, don't fret, especially if you're a first-time author, because there are quite a bit of steps. And even in this video, I can't go through every little tiny step because there's actually a lot of considerations based on the type of book you're writing, based on the publishing path that you're taking, based on the time of the year even that you're launching the book. There are a lot of different factors. And so in the Thought Leadership Collective, which is my incubator to help authors, experts, speakers, and people like you become thought leaders through writing a book that helps build your business model and your thought leadership brand. We take a look at your specifics so that you can architect the right bestseller strategy for you. So what I'm going to try to do in this video is give you the highlights of the bestseller list so that you kind of understand the lay of the land. All right. So in general, there are three major bestseller lists. There is what we call the cream of the crop, the one that everybody wants, which is the New York Times bestsellers list, right? I'm going to tell you in a moment, after I tell you the three types, how actually having that as a goal is not always the best idea and sometimes not even the most healthy idea for your own mental health, okay? So there's the New York Times bestsellers list. The second big list is the USA Today bestsellers list. And USA Today is obviously a major newspaper and media. The equivalent actually is the New York Times bestsellers list in terms of its impact and its gravitas. So that's a good thing. The third major bestseller list is the Amazon bestsellers list. And most of us are familiar with people saying, I hit the #1 bestseller on Amazon during my book launch. And so Amazon is the third major list. Now, what I want you to also know is that there used to be a list called the Wall Street Journal's bestsellers list. That is no longer, at the time of this recording, a list that authors can get on. And I think that's important because you might see a lot of other authors putting on their books, WSJ bestseller, right? The thing is that they got that designation when the Wall Street Journal was still handing out bestseller lists. But as of this video, they are no longer participating in bestseller list accolades, okay, or awards. And so if someone tells you, for example, I can help you get on the WSJ, they are lying. So make sure you do that because there are a lot of scam artists out there that are telling you that you can get on bestsellers lists. And they'll name the WSJ, and it's actually not possible at all to get on the WSJ. The next one that you need to know is that there are a lot of regional and niche lists that are very, very impressive. For example, the LA Times, which is the Los Angeles Times, has a bestsellers list. And if you can get on the LA Times list, that's really impressive. And it's actually not hard to get on if you know what to do, which I promise I'm going to get to in a moment. Okay. And then there are specialty bestseller lists like Porchlight and other lists like the Thinkers 50, where your book can be nominated based on best-selling status and the reviews that you get on your book to be on a list. So there's a lot of different ones, but the three ones that I'm going to really go a little bit deeper on in this video is New York Times, USA Today, and Amazon. All right. So New York Times bestsellers list. Okay, first of all, there is a lot of mystery related to the New York Times bestsellers list. Okay. It is partly a how many books you've sold and partly an editorial decision, meaning there's an objective number and there's a subjective review by this mystery group of editors that nobody knows. These people are super mysterious. And trust me, every author, lit agent, PR person still wants to know who is the secret Illuminati of editors at the New York Times who is putting their magic wand over the authors in the months to say they get the gold star, right? And so the thing about being an author, especially a thought leadership author, is that what I hope is that you're writing it because you actually want people to change the way they think. You want them to see a different perspective. You want to change the status quo. And the truth is that to do that, you got to focus on what you can control. And you cannot control what the editors will like and not like. That's kind of the thing. And so a lot of people don't want to even write a book because they're like, unless I can get a New York Times bestseller, I don't even want to try. And I want to tell you that that's a mistake, okay? Because we can't control if you are a chosen one, okay? What we can control is how many books you sell, right? And that's the objective part of the New York Times bestsellers list. Now, here's the thing about it. Even though it's objective, it's kind of not fully objective on the New York Times bestsellers list. And that's why I don't like the New York Times as the ultimate pinnacle that says you are a successful author or thought leader. Because until you actually get a book to market, the likelihood of your first book hitting the New York Times is lower unless you have this massive platform that you can demonstrate that you can sell a lot of books. Because I want to tell you, there are a lot of celebrities who write memoirs and whatnot, and they don't even hit the New York Times bestsellers list because they think just based on their platform, they're going to hit it. And the algorithm, if you will, is so subjective. It's a hard one to crack. So I'm not trying to not make you want that big dream, because I want that big dream, just to be clear. It's because what I've learned and what I break down even further in the Thought Leadership Collective, because as I said, it's very bespoke how you can architect getting on that big list. But it also has a lot to do with the relationships that you've built ahead of time with the publishing industry overall, other influencers. And when we start talking about that, it starts to become pretty, in my mind anyway, disenchanting. Because if I have to feel like I got to keep up with the social media Joneses to hit the New York Times, I don't feel as motivated, right? And so I'm not saying anything negative against the New York Times bestsellers list. I'm saying that you don't need it to actually sell a lot of books, to make a huge impact with your actual book, and for people to take your book seriously, take you seriously as a thought leader. Okay, let's move to the USA Today bestsellers list. Now, what I love about the USA Today bestsellers list, it's pretty objective. Okay, there's not much subjectivity, which I like because I can control that, right? If I know how many books I sell, I'm almost guaranteed to get on the USA Today list, because here's the cool thing about the USA Today list. It basically every week and every month will name the top 200 books that are actually selling based on the data provided by BookScan. BookScan is the master authority on how many books are sold during your book launch week. Okay. Now, BookScan is not perfect, and not all booksellers, including Amazon. Amazon is a bookseller. Okay. Your independent bookstores are booksellers. People who sell books through other retailers like Target or Walmart are also booksellers. And so during the time of your book launch, any book that's sold through all the retail outlets will, or should anyway, report to BookScan how many books are sold. By the way, the New York Times takes that information too. All right. And USA Today compiles that, and whoever sold the most books in that week gets on the list, up to 200. You know what's crazy? Because you might not know this, is that most authors don't even sell 200 books their launch week. Most, like 95% of authors don't. Don't let that disenchant you, because you can actually get the USA Today bestsellers list if number 200 on that list that week sells less than 200 books. And if you think you can't sell 200 books when you launch your book, I want you to know you absolutely can. And again, this is what I'm obsessed with authors getting their work into more people's hands and building their business models and their brand authority with them. So selling 200 books shouldn't be a problem if you have the right strategy. So the good news is it's very achievable to get on the USA Today bestsellers list. In fact, humble brag, even I beat Bill Gates himself. His book came out the same week as mine, and I actually beat him on the USA Today bestsellers list, which told me I sold more books than him, even though he hit the New York Times. And so that's how you show the difference between the subjective and the objective. And I don't know about you, but I need to live in a world where facts are important, right? And that's what I'm trying to share with you as transparently as possible, that actually the USA Today is more trustworthy. Sorry, New York Times, please still like me, okay? Than the New York Times, because of the subjectivity of it, right? Not only that, the New York Times has very specific categories, and the nonfiction prescriptive category, which is the kind of book that I wrote and a lot of our clients write, which is prescriptive nonfiction, something about your expertise, is actually the smallest and most competitive category of all the categories in the New York Times. So I just wanted to say that, because a lot of people don't understand this or haven't been told this. And I think it's really important for you to understand what you're getting up against as an author or a would-be author. If you already launched a book and you're like, dang it, Jen, I wish I would have known this before I launched my book. The good news is we need your next book. So please write that too. So now you know better, okay? The third list that most people know is Amazon, right? And the thing about Amazon is, I'm gonna tell you right now, Amazon is the easiest one to rig the odds in your favor. And I have a very strong opinion about it, but if you're watching and worrying that I'm judging you, if you rigged it in your favor because some sketchy self-published or hybrid publishing coach told you, like, I can make you number one on Amazon, it's not your fault. If you hit Amazon and you still felt a little bit udgy or like gross around how you had to do it based on this advice, okay? So what I mean by that is, because Amazon is the easiest to rig or manipulate, many people that hit the Amazon number one bestsellers category do it through three different ways. Number one, they choose a subcategory in Amazon where it's really easy to hit number one. For example, let's say you're writing a book about unicorn team, right? But my bestsellers coach told me that we're going to hit number one because we're going to put you in the horse breeding category of books on Amazon that week. So unicorns, horses, right? Oh, they're close enough, right? Like one has a horn, one doesn't, right? Not many people are publishing a book on horse breeding every week. Not many people. It's a very niche category, but because it's so niche, if they index your book in a category that is rarely used, you can hit number one on Amazon. Okay? And yeah, I guess I would be judging that if you actually knew that that's what you were doing and were okay with it. Because my point is, you actually don't have to play those rigged games in order to hit number one on Amazon. So that's one thing. I think that's probably going to blow your mind that a lot of these number one bestsellers did that. Number two, the way to hit a bestseller on Amazon in what I consider a more legitimate, non-rigged way is that you can sell the audio or the ebook version of your book for a reduced price if you're self-publishing, or if you can work something out with your publisher, because sometimes your publisher will allow you to do it for a discounted price. And if you do that and you run a bestseller campaign, which just means writing emails, telling everybody your book is available for like 99 cents or $1.99 on Amazon in a category that actually is supportive of your book's content, you are very likely to hit between number one and number 10 on that particular day. And you can legitimately use that designation as an Amazon bestseller. Okay. And a third way that you can hit Amazon bestseller status, if your publishing with a traditional publisher, one thing that they should be doing for you ahead of time is indexing your book in Amazon. That is the publisher's job, is to make sure you are indexed in a variety of subjects so that you can hit bestseller in at least one of them. Because you don't have control when you get a published book from a big 5 publisher to pick your indexes on Amazon. They control that. Okay, so just make sure as an author, you're advocating for yourself that you are in a variety of categories so you can hit, the bestsellers list. If you're self-publishing, as I said, good news is you get to control the indexing. And therefore, all I ask is don't be afraid to pick a category that is relevant to your book so you don't look illegitimate to people who you want to hire you for speaking gigs, because they can tell. Like, let's say you want to pitch your book to a company to speak, and they look up your book on Amazon and they see that Unicorn Team hit #1 in the horse breeding category. They will see that. You don't want that in your CV. You don't want that on your resume, right? You don't want that as part of your reputation. So instead, if you're self-publishing and you want to be a bestseller on Amazon, what I'd rather you do is pick your launch date to be somewhere between April and August. Okay? Between those time frames, you're competing less with the traditionally published books out there for the big categories, because the traditionally published books really usually publish their books between September and March in general. Okay. So you can get into a major category if you self-publish, if you just pick the right launch date. So you see how the factors make a difference. And it's these factors and these specifics for each author that no one really exposes and helps you strategize, is why I formed the Thought Leadership Collective after I launched my book. Because if half the things that I just shared with you in this video I knew before I launched my own book, I would have made some different decisions. So I hope that this video was super helpful for you. I hope that understanding that you deserve to be a bestseller and how bestsellers work makes you actually want and get excited to write the book that we all need to read next. So stay tuned, because there's another video that I want you to watch that'll help you continue to build your thought leadership brand.